Hello and welcome to my channel. In this series, I will be doing work on the Toyota RAV4 engine, the 1AZ-FE that can be found in the Toyota RAV4 from the year 2000 until the year 2003. This engine can also be found in Toyota Camry, in the Toyota Wish, and I believe they can also be found in the Toyota RAV4 Euro version. I will be doing some extensive work on this engine, including the valve cover gasket, the oil pan gasket. I'll be resealing the front plate. I will be replacing the timing belt, a VVT solenoid, as well as the front and back engine seal. Hope you enjoyed this video. In this video, number one, you will learn how to remove the air intake housing. You will also learn how to remove the spark plug boots, the valve cover, and lastly, you will learn how to properly remove the serpentine belt on the Toyota RAV4 with the engine 1AZ-FE. Using a 1/2-inch drive and a 13/16 socket with an impact, I proceed to remove the lug nuts and lastly the tire of the vehicle. I will now proceed to remove the air intake. For this, I will use a 10mm socket. Carefully remove these not to lose them. And once I remove that front part of the housing, I can unclip and take that whole assembly out, exposing the air intake filter. Right after removing the front side of the air intake, we can clearly see the air intake filter, and also we can clearly see the top of our valve cover. Now these bolts here can be removed, also the 10mm socket. Just be careful not to drop any of those bolts inside of the air intake. Take them all off and place them in a magnetic tray so they don't go wander around. Next, you will need to disconnect the mass airflow sensor harness and a little hose that sits in the back. This picture you can clearly see where it's at. There, I unplug the mass airflow harness, then pull it out a little bit. The bracket comes off that holds the intake in place, exposing now that little hose in the back that you can basically open the clamp using a pair of pliers, and then after that you can slide it off just like so. So the air filter comes off too. Next, you just gotta plug that hose in there. You don't want any debris going inside the air intake. Right after removing the air intake housing, I have a clear view and I can actually remove the four spark plug boots that sit right on top of the valve cover. Taking off those 4 bolts, and I will put them right there on the magnetic tray so I don't lose them. And then I'll go through each spark plug, each cylinder spark plug, pull the boot off like that, and then unplug the harness. That's one. Now the second one. That's two. Now the third one. That's still working on the third one. There's the third one off, and now the fourth. Those boots actually break, so be very careful where you place them, not to drop them. Right after I removed the spark plug boots, I move away the wire harness on top of the valve cover, exposing everything. I can have a clear view of a hose that sits on the right hand side that I will proceed to remove next. Using a pair of pliers, I'll open the clamp and wiggle it out. Now, because this hose sits on top of the engine, it's exposed to a lot of heat, it's normal that it's frayed and it may break. And that's actually what happens on this case. So I'll have to remove it, but there is a, you can see there that it broke. So this hose will need to be replaced. But all you need to remove it is a pair of pliers, open the clamp, and wiggle it out. Now where the arrow sits there, there's another hose that needs to be removed. Basically the same way. You will use a pair of pliers, open the clamp, then wiggle it out, came out as a whole. Then I'm going to take my spark plug boots, move them out of the way. I don't want to drop them and have to buy one of those because when they crack, they need to be replaced. And basically just doing some cleanup at this point, getting everything ready. The next step is to remove the bolt that sits on that side of the valve cover that holds a wiring harness in place. Take that bolt out and move it out of the way. At this point, we remove two hoses where the green arrows are and the spark plug boots along with the wiring harness that is off. Next, we need to remove 8 bolts and 2 nuts that hold the valve cover in place. 2 bolts on the center, 6 bolts around the valve cover along with 2 nuts. To remove these, you will need a 10mm socket. I use an extension to be able to reach the bolts that are sitting on the upper left, right under the power steering fluid reservoir, because they're hard to reach. They'll be hard to reach. Just remove them all to be able to pull the valve cover off. Now with all the bolts and nuts out of the way, I can pull the valve cover off. So I'm doing it right here. And now you can see the valve cover gasket. Right after removing the valve cover, we can clearly see the VVT solenoid that we will replace in. You can see the fuel rail and we can see both camshafts. Also, the timing chain can become visible, timing sensor, and the spark plugs. From here on, we will concentrate on removing the battery using a 10 millimeter wrench for the ground and a 1/2 inch wrench for the positive side. Next, we will remove the serpentine belt. The main idea here is to make the tensioner go in the direction of the green arrow. Here we can see that we need to loosen up the 14 millimeter bolt on top, fist the 3/4 socket to make the tensioner go down in the direction of the yellow arrow. In this video, um, you can clearly see that I'm using a 14 millimeter wrench to be able to loosen up that side of the tensioner. You don't have to take the bolt all the way. I'm not using a socket and a ratchet because you cannot fit a socket and a ratchet in there. So you break it loose first, and then you will need to go on top. And I used a 1/2 inch drive ratchet with a swivel head and a 3/4 socket to fit there, and then I'm gonna go right like I'm tightening a bolt. When I go right and the belt releases, I fit my hand in there and get it off the alternator. Once it's off, then I can use both of my hands, one on top and one at the bottom, to get the serpentine belt out. It's a fairly simple job, but there is AC lines and wires in the way, so just be very careful when you fit your ratchet in there. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe. Thank you.